me about yourself and how you got into wine. What is it that gave you the kind of impetus to start enjoying wine and dedicate your career
I have to say,
to it?
it's by now it's already about 30 years I'm busy with this topic, and you go more and more far away from the beginning. But I think what I always liked were the people. The people I met that are dealing with wine, the people that love wine, and it's a topic that keeps you going from place to place, like something similar you're doing right now. So I always knew, oh, I know one there, then I can go to the next one, to the next one, and in the end, it's a big family. And we all love the same thing. We all get drunk after a certain moment, and we tell funny stories. And it's a beautiful a world of a topic. Risk is how I got to writing. I had the luck that I found a publisher that published things I do, and when I started, the media was much more flourishing. So you could publish much more than today, but I kept on publishing, and still today, when you sit down and you have your empty screen by now, and then the satisfaction when it's full, it keeps me going.
Uh-huh. And how have you seen the industry change in your career?
Well, if I'm here in Switzerland, I must say it's a very spoiled industry because, as you may know, the Swiss wine production is hardly exported. So we drink 98% in the country, which is a huge privilege, because other countries, they have to do so much effort, so much promotion to sell their wine. So here it's a little bit it's like Switzerland is. It's a kind of a protected place, and which has also some maybe negative points that you never really aim for real greatness in wine, not in other topics, but in wine, because they drink it in the country. And you may be not so much challenged that if you would have to sell it outside. But I think this didn't really change. It stayed like this since I know it. What changed a lot is, for example, the focus on indigenous grapes. We have a lot of indigenous grapes, and because we don't export, we are not really even aware how beautiful they are. So, but now it's a lot of discussion around this. So this becomes a more important topic. Switzerland was always a very open market, meaning we have our wine, but we import almost as much wine from other countries. So we have from all over, from China, from Italy, from Thailand, from India. It's a country that drinks wine. So this is for me as a professional very interesting, because I get all the wines I want to taste. I don't have, of course, it's beautiful, more better to travel, but you find here all the wines that are produced. People drink a little bit less, it's like all over. We are on 34 liters by head now, but we spend a lot of money per bottle. It's an average price of about €8, which is not bad compared to Germany, our neighbor, which is much below that.
Different reputation.
Exactly. So it is an interesting topic. It always was, and people speak about it.
Yeah.
Maybe another thing, what also happens here, less strong than in London, but we have a movement of these natural wines. This is growing also here, always a little bit slower here. But you see young people that do different kind of restaurants with natural food. They grow things in the city and they drink these wines, which I think it's a very interesting evolution.
Mm-hmm, super. And in your book that you've just released in English, one of your titles is entitled Chasselas, A Declaration of Neutrality. Yep. What is your kind of perception of Chasselas, and how do you think your perception as an expert within the industry is different to that of a consumer just getting to understand the grape?
Yeah, so it's we found out by now that Chasselas really origins from Switzerland, which is a wonderful news. It is not an easy grape because she's really very neutral, and it's a very widely planted grape, but everybody eats it. So, and of course we have to do wine. We have an old wine culture with Chasselas, which, like in Burgundy, wines usually don't have the name Chasselas, but like from villages like Saint-Symphorien, like Aigle, like Morges, like Dézaley as a terroir. And it's very deep in the Swiss culture, and especially in the Swiss-French culture. So already here in Zurich, people will drink less Chasselas because they think, oh, it's the French part. They drink different wine than we drink here. And myself, it took me a long time to understand the grape. In young age, I used euros or Chasselas. I want something heavy, a Chardonnay, I want a Sauvignon, I want an Italian wine. But then you travel around, you taste all the wines, and suddenly you realize there are not so many grapes, or I wouldn't know another one, which is so light and so digestible. This digestibility in wine, I think it's an important topic, like Chasselas. So I love Chasselas, but I don't drink only Chasselas. So I think it's a nice a variation of a very neutral, light grape.
Fabulous. And talking about your experience in Asia, and what do you think of the wine markets developing there? Because you mentioned Chinese wines that you taste, and are you kind of keeping on top of any of the other producing countries there? It's good coffee there.
No, it's really excellent. It's a Swiss, how do you say, when they roast it. So it's a Swiss company. And
Swiss roastery, it's delicious.
So Asia, this is again, I think it's so beautiful to see that some years ago nobody spoke about Asia. It was like, so bang, suddenly it starts, and you see the whole market developing, you see producers creating new labels that especially focus on the market. Of course, it's a huge market. And if I think about the Chinese millennials, I mean, there are figures in Europe, we dream about this because we are so small, and especially here. So it's beautiful to see this energy of new creations, of a new evolution that happens, and to follow this. Of course, there are many things I don't understand because it's not really my culture, but it's wonderful to watch, and also that wine companies that adopt, that create new things, that go there. It's a huge of a work, but beautiful to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how do you think the kind of Asian market might influence wine communication?
Yeah, this is an interesting question.
Or perhaps how do you think that wine communication, what do you see as the kind of future of global wine communication? Thinking about the fact that we're a circle of wine writers from all over the world and communicating all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I don't know specifically what comes from Asia as communication, but as communication in general. We, for example, we launched a new wine magazine. Nobody wants print, but we thought, no, we do 4 times a year a magazine, which has a different approach. It's you don't have to be really an expert, you have to love wine. But if you don't want to know how the whole production is done, I tell you other stories. I tell the stories after when the wine is already here. So I think this is a new way of communicating. Communicating. And I think, of course, the internet is a very important tool of communication, also of information, of accessibility to wines, comparison of prices, unfortunately, and those are communicating among each other. Still, I think wine is a central topic, and reading for me is also something I touch. So I hope that in the future we will still have a lot of places to publish and to print in papers. But the internet, of course, is growing, and I think there are things I cannot even imagine yet that are happening. But it is, not to underestimate.
Mm-hmm. And do you still have a typewriter?
No, it's true, I don't have. I kept
not even for sounds.
No, the last time I moved and I settled really here, I think I left as much as possible. I gave away, so I don't have it anymore.
The death of the typewriter. Thank you.